Look at this map. These glowing lines? They're not trade routes. Not internet cables. There's something else entirely. Invisible threads connecting Washington to Moscow, Beijing to Brussels, Tehran to Tel Aviv. What if I told you there's a treaty controlling cyber warfare that no one signed? A secret rulebook that governs how nations hack each other. Rules that everyone follows, but nobody admits exist. I know. Cyber war sounds like chaos. Like the Wild West. That's what they want you to think. But here's the thing. It's not. Picture this. Tomorrow morning, you wake up and the lights won't turn on. The water won't run. Hospital ventilators stop breathing. Your money? Gone. Just zeros in a database somewhere. This is the nightmare. The one that keeps world leaders up at night. A cyber Pearl Harbor. That's what Leon Panetta called it back in 2012. A cyber attack crippling U.S. critical infrastructure would constitute an act of war. An act of war. Think about that. So here's the question nobody's asking. If everyone's terrified of the same nightmare, wouldn't they try to prevent it? Even enemies? Even in secret? Look closer at the map. See how these lines glow brighter around certain places? Power plants, water systems, hospitals. These aren't just infrastructure. They're off-limits zones. Forbidden targets in a war nobody talks about. It started with warnings, then leaks, then, get this, actual hotlines between enemies. A top-secret presidential directive gets leaked. PPD-20, they called it. Boring name, terrifying content. It says any U.S. cyber operation reasonably likely to result in significant consequences, death, economic damage, retaliation, needs the president's personal approval. Wait, what? The president has to personally sign off on cyber attacks? That's a rule, a self-imposed limit. But it gets weirder. The US and Russia, Russia, sign a cyber pact. They literally dust off the old Cold War hotlines, the ones they used to prevent nuclear war, and repurpose them for cyber attacks. The message? Hey, if we see something weird in our networks, let's talk before we assume it's an attack and blow each other up. Even China agrees. At the UN, they actually say, and I'm quoting here, "The laws of war apply to cyberspace." The secret treaty is taking shape. Not on paper, but in action, in restraint, in the attacks that don't happen. But rules only become real when they're tested. Enter Stuxnet. This wasn't just malware. This was a weapon. A digital missile aimed at Iran's nuclear program. Watch this. See these centrifuges? Stuxnet made them spin out of control, destroyed a fifth of them, set Iran's nuclear program back years. No one died. The lights stayed on in Tehran. Hospitals kept running. Was that intentional? A cyber weapon designed to follow the rules of war? To hit military targets but spare civilians? The world was watching and learning. If you could destroy infrastructure with code, where were the limits? What was allowed? What would trigger retaliation? The invisible treaty needed its first real test. Sony Pictures, 2014. North Korea hacks a movie studio to stop a comedy. A comedy. They leak emails, threaten theaters, create chaos. Obama calls it says this crossed a line. It's beyond the bounds of acceptable state behavior. The world agrees. You don't hack civilians to silence free speech. That's not espionage. That's something else. Every attack becomes a precedent, a line drawn, a rule written in the shadows. Ukraine's power grid, 2015. Russia's testing something. The lights go out in winter. Families freeze. The world watches. Is this the new normal? Or did someone just break the treaty? Israel and Iran trading digital blows. But look closer. Iran tries to hack water systems. Israel retaliates by paralyzing a port. Proportional. Calculated. Like there's a formula, an understanding. Nobody's admitting it, but everyone's following the same playbook. And then things get really dark. The New York Times drops a bombshell. The US has planted malware deep inside Russia's power grid. Not to attack, not yet. Just sitting there, waiting. But here's the kicker. Russia has done the same thing to us. They're in our grid too. It's like two scorpions, tails raised, each knowing the other could strike. But neither one does. Why? Because, and follow me here, they've turned each other's infrastructure into hostages. Mutual assured destruction, but with code instead of nukes. The ultimate enforcement mechanism for the invisible treaty. We're in your grid. You're in ours. So let's both be very, very careful. Meanwhile, in Estonia, a group of lawyers is doing something radical. They're trying to write down the rules. The Tallinn Manual. Sounds boring. It's not. It's 154 rules for cyber warfare. When you can attack, what you can attack, who's off limits. No government signed it, but, and here's the weird part, they all read it. Military lawyers keep it on their desks. It's like everyone wanted rules, but nobody wanted to admit they needed them. Rule 80, you can't target hospitals. Rule 92, civilian infrastructure is off limits unless it's a military objective. Rule 93, proportionality applies, even in cyberspace. This isn't some fantasy. These are the rules everyone's already following. The Tallinn Manual just said the quiet part out loud. Geneva, 2021. Biden slides a piece of paper across the table to Putin. 16 sectors: energy, water, healthcare, finance. The foundations of civilization. Biden's message is clear. These are off limits. Touch them, and we have a problem. Putin doesn't say yes, but he doesn't say no either. He agrees to consultations. It's like watching mafia bosses negotiate territory, except that the territory is the entire digital world. And the stakes are millions of lives. This is it, the invisible treaty becoming visible. Almost. Two leaders essentially saying, let's agree on what not to destroy. But treaties are fragile things. February 2022. Russia invades Ukraine. Everyone's watching. Will cyber war finally go nuclear? Will they take down NATO's grid? Will the West retaliate in kind? And then they don't. Oh, there are attacks. Wiper malware, satellite hacks. But the apocalyptic cyber strikes everyone feared? The ones that would black out Europe? they never come. Why? Maybe because everyone knows where that leads. Maybe because the invisible treaty, barely holding, fraying at the edges, is still holding. Even in war, some lines remain for now. Look at the map again. See all those glowing points? Those are hospitals. During COVID, 40 world leaders signed an appeal. Stop hacking healthcare. The Red Cross said what everyone was thinking. These attacks are illegal. Always have been in war and peace. Some targets remain sacred, even in the shadows. This isn't a treaty you can read. There's no parchment, no signatures, no grand ceremony. But it's there, in every hospital that wasn't hacked, every power grid that wasn't crashed, every water system that kept flowing when it could have been poisoned. The evidence is in what didn't happen, in the catastrophes that never came. 27 nations called it an evolving framework. The lawyers wrote it down in manuals nobody officially endorses. Presidents trade lists of forbidden targets like mob bosses dividing turf. This is the secret treaty. Unwritten but real. Fragile but holding. The question is, for how long? Because every time malware crosses a border, every time code becomes a weapon, the treaty is tested. And one day, maybe tomorrow, maybe in 10 years, someone's going to break it. Really break it. And when that happens, well, let's hope we never find out.